When I first started drawing, my mom took me to Barbara Cap's house, and I walked down the old grassy path to this kind of basement, and that's where she had all of the easels set up in a row. The coffee was brewing. She was chain smoking outside when I first met her. So Barbara Capps was an amazing mentor and artist, and she showed me everything I needed for foundations, and I'm going to relay that to you today. The biggest takeaway is that if you take away anything here is to learn sighting, and then to realize that what your mind is telling you is not always what your eyes are actually seeing. So be free with gesturing, be free with realizing that what you're looking at may not be what your mind is telling you. So it takes some practice. When I begin my drawings, I like to get my head in the right place. And that means having peace and calm, getting the studio space set up nicely, even putting on a candle or some beautiful classical music. So I am inviting you to join me in that. So take time to set up your space however you like, and then let's do this 1 minute meditation together. It won't take long at all, but we're just gonna get our heads in the right space. All right. So get in a comfortable place. Just stand if you want, or sit down, or lay down, whatever. And relax. Notice how you feel. Close your eyes. Notice your breath. And then take some deep, long breaths. In, hold, and out. So let's do that for a few rounds. Take a breath in. Hold. And breathe out. Breathe in. And hold. And breathe out. And realize that this time is a time for you to be present. It's a time for you to use your creative thoughts, your God-given creative self can be set free during this time. You can also use it to focus. A lot of art is focusing too. And it goes without saying that art encompasses a whole world of different things. But today, what we want to do is let creativity loose, just be in the present, and enjoy some moments of deep focus. All right, let's begin. So let's set up. The first step is just getting your space ready, getting some paper. I recommend newsprint. It's pretty cheap, and so you won't feel guilty if you just want to start over again. And just to let you know, newsprint does yellow over time, so if you want to create a masterpiece, I wouldn't necessarily use this either. Make sure the board is tilted correctly, so you don't want it tilted far away from you or too close, and you don't want to be looking up or looking down. The next part is getting that soft vine charcoal, and this stuff is fantastic. I mean, it's also cheap, like newsprint. It's a very cool medium, but you don't have to worry about wasting it. And here I am lowering my board, so feel free to take as much time as you need to get your studio space set up properly. Please draw 5 consecutive vertical lines. Try to make them exactly like the first one. And then do it again horizontally and diagonally. This is really teaching you just a little bit of how to work with the medium. So keep following along. Draw some curves, draw some backwards curves, and then we're going to get into doing some shapes. Try a square or a rectangle. Notice the angles. So, if you are more engineer-minded, then you could try drawing a square and then draw a dot in the middle of the square to give you kind of a base of where to make the curves, and then draw curves from the center of one panel, one side, to the center of the next, and then the next and the next. And we're going to practice ellipses. Draw a dot in the center of the rectangle, and then 2 dots outward from it, equidistance. Next up, draw a square and then a rectangle attached at one of the corners, and practice irregular curves. Do this as much as you like. Get used to the charcoal, practice some shading, just have some fun with it. So take your block, whatever it is, you might have a dice, and what you're going to do is look at just the first panel and tilt it toward you. So you'll see that you have a square and a little rectangle here, and draw that, and then tilt it a little bit further and draw that, and draw that. All right, next take your die and point a corner of it toward you. And what you'll see are 3 diamonds. So you'll see one here, here, and here. And draw those. And I also just want to point out to you point of view, how important it is. So for example, this cylinder, from one perspective, it's just a circle. And then from another perspective, it's a square. And then if you tilt it, you have ellipses plus vertical lines and curved lines. So it's all about perspective. Going from 2D to 3D is difficult at first, so we'll start at the beginning and just use a block. Alright, I just want to add a little side video about this because it's kind of hard to see in what I recorded earlier. But if you're able to actually hold something in your hands, you can measure it like with whatever you have around. So for example, this short end is about halfway through the long end. So that's how you know how to draw that. The depth is about halfway through the short end. It's a little bit less less than that, but you see what I mean. And then with sighting, what you want to do to practice it is set something at a distance, use your pencil and your arm, and you want to hold it out. You want to be straight with it. You don't want to bend forward or back. You don't want to bend your elbow. You want to keep it straight. And then you measure that way. So I would measure like so. So we're transitioning now into sighting because you can't always be holding whatever object or thing you're going to be drawing. So it's sort of the same thing as measuring, except from a distance. You're going to decide on what base you want to measure everything else by. So extend your arm out and hold whatever pencil or charcoal you've got in your hand, and put your finger in a place that you will not move it, and then start measuring that way. So don't move your body forward or backward, and don't bend your elbow, because you want to have, you want it to be accurate. What I measured by putting the block in a distant place is the same thing that I measured when I was holding the block, which is the short side is half of the long side. So essentially I did the same sort of measuring but at a distance, and that is sighting in a nutshell. To recap, you need to make a base unit when you're sighting. Draw another line of horizon, a vanishing point, and then draw a line, a vertical line below that. From the top of the line to the bottom of the line, draw to the vanishing point. Let's do it again, but instead of just a line, we're going to do a square, as if we're facing a building. So draw your line of horizon, the vanishing point. Draw some sort of square below the line or above it if you want. You'll know it does the same thing. And then from every corner, draw to the vanishing point. Excellent. go ahead and do what you did before. Draw the line to the focus point, and you'll of course notice that instead of just going up toward the focus point, what crosses the line of horizon is going down toward the focus point. And I added that extra line so you can kind of see that's maybe the side of the building. And just for fun reference, here's a little door. And the same kind of lines would occur whether you're drawing in windows or trees. It can be loads of fun to practice this. So I definitely recommend just sitting at the corner of a downtown and drawing an old building and picking your vanishing point and see what happens. You'll have a lot of friendly questioners coming by. Excellent. So we're going to switch gears now and do some gesture drawing. I wanted to show you our elephant friend up close. It's pretty cool, right? But for drawing purposes, you can see that it's kind of tilted toward you. The length of the body is about the same length as the leg. Gesture drawing is quick sketches. Sometimes you can practice in doing a whole figure in like 3 seconds or 20 seconds or 1 minute, and we'll actually do a 1 minute one later. But for now, let's just get really loose with the charcoal and play around with this sculpture of an elephant. You can practice your sighting and you can practice shading with this, but the whole point is to not be too rigid. Just be loose with it, get the general shapes, and fill in as you go. This elephant sculpture is kind of a gesture sculpture of an elephant, so you can't go wrong here, really. Just, you can notice the tusk. You can see the materials that this sculpture is made out of. It's driftwood and clay. And I believe the artist raccooned the piece, which is kind of a low firing for sculpture. Get a fresh sheet of newsprint paper and set up a new page for yourself. Next up is just a 1-minute gesture drawing of two boys running through a sprinkler. So the point is just to get their image on the paper as fast as you can, and then start doing some citing and measuring from there, and just get as much as you can done in 1 minute. Ah, fantastic. Excellent work. You've gotten really far with this 2D exploration, and we're going to go into portraiture next. So first of all, I just want to say I'm proud of you, because it's hard to try new things, but it's also a lot of fun. So I hope that you're enjoying it. So go ahead and get another piece of paper set up for yourself, and we're going to look at this female face. All right, let's draw this portrait. We're going to start off just like we do any gesture drawing and get the basic shape down. With a portrait of a face, especially this sort of standard symmetrical looking face, there are a few rules that almost every face it can apply to, and that is the eyes are actually the very center of the head. So from the very top of the head to the very bottom of the chin, you can generally measure that in between those is where the corner of the eyes will be. There's also a rule of thirds, where the bottom of the chin to the bottom of the nose equals the same amount of space between the bottom of the nose and the eyebrows, and then the eyebrows to the forehead. So I didn't say to the top of the head, just to the forehead. So fill those in a little bit. Feel free to spend as much time as you want on those measurements before moving on. Drawing a very faint line down the center of the face will give you a baseline of how to measure everything else, the eyes and the nose and the mouth, so you kind of have a way to put them in without them being askew. once you have a basic idea of where the eyebrows, the eyes, the nose, the mouth are going to go, you can start filling that in as you like, and use your hands to blend, erase, and redraw as you like. I'm going to do a little bit of fast forwarding on some of this face. Take as much time as you want, and also know that it's not going to be beautifully perfect all the way through. It's a lot of putting down charcoal and erasing and iterating a little bit as you go. So don't be too hard on yourself as you go forward. Have a little faith that it's going to be better than you expect. All right, so your best friend is going to be the kneaded eraser when it comes with charcoal, because you can form it into a point where you can use it to do very, very detailed highlights. You can form it into a flat surface if you need to do a line, a curved surface, or if you just want to take the whole thing and rub it right all over because you need to clean it up, whatever it might be. But this kneaded eraser is fantastic, and it's a really cheap tool, just like everything else, like the charcoal and the newsprint. When you're drawing eyes, consider the shape of the skull and the eyeballs, because it's not just a flat almond shape for an eye. The eyeballs are actually spheres, and so that's going to create a lot of shadows and lights and some dimensions there. So spend some time playing around with the charcoal and the kneaded eraser to notice where there's highlights, notice where there's dark shadows, and notice how the eye is a sphere. So you'll just take some time with it. You'll see that light will strike one area of the eye, and then it'll actually just kind of cascade through the eye and diffuse. So you'll have this bright white spot on her iris, but then across from that white spot is like a diffuse lighter hue. So consider that too when you're looking at eyes. That really adds a lot to them. The eyelids also have dimensions to them. So some people's eyelids are really thick and they have thick eyelashes, and you can draw that in. And some of them don't, but you'll be able to see as you get closer up into the eye where there's pops of light coming out and where there's a line of eyelashes. And I recommend drawing each little eyelash if you're really getting into the eyes, rather than just drawing the lines. And a quick note about mouths. So human mouths are not emoji mouths, so you won't see a straight line, you won't see a smiley or a frowny face like an emoji. It'll be more dynamic than that, a little bit more interesting. A lot of the time there's a little upward curve on one or both sides of the ends of the mouth. So that's something to look at. Every person is a little bit different. I mean, there are some standard rules that are typical, but in the end, we all look a little bit different. There's a reason. It's because we break those rules. Something else to highlight is that light, it behaves interesting. It doesn't just come at you from one direction and stop there. So it will bounce off of surfaces. So for example, around her jawline, you can see that there are areas that are dark and then some that are just pops of light, almost a line of light. And that's because the shadows and lights are playing with each other. So that's something to take note of when you're drawing faces. Often ears are another sort of portrait rule where the bottom of the nose is about where the bottom of the ear is, and then the bottom of the eyebrow is kind of the top of the ear. Thank you so much for joining me today, and I hope you enjoyed it. I had a blast. Charcoal is certainly one of the best mediums to work with, and you did it. You went through the whole thing. You learned all the foundations. You even dove into some portraiture, which is really hard. The next few courses that are coming up are going to be landscape, a still life, and I have another color portrait in soft pastel, and that's going to be over the course of the next few weeks. But depending on when you get this, they might already be out. So I hope that you got everything you needed from this time together. And thank you so much for joining me. Ciao.